The Democrats impeached Donald Trump. Nancy Pelosi's playing games with it. I'll tell you why it's genius what she's doing. The GOP, the Democrats, is there any difference? They're all blowing your money. Finally, the first brand new talent, Mike Slater, joins me and we talk about all things. All that's coming up right now on I'm Right. I have so many amazing theories and amazing phrases that sometimes I have a hard time sorting them out. I think I'm going to have to write a book or something like that. But one of my favorites is the nuclear news cycle. We currently live in the nuclear news cycle. Well, now, what do I mean by that? Well, in the old days when there were 3 news channels and Grandpappy had to wake up and read the paper every morning to find out what the news was, and you got home at night, you didn't have a smartphone. Yeah, that's right, my smartphone has my picture on it. You didn't have that. You got home from work at night and you talked to the missus and she was making dinner because life was better like that, and you said hi to the kiddos and you ate, you talked, and finally you sat down, put your feet up, turned on the news, and you caught the news of the day for 10, 15 minutes, once a day. Maybe twice. That's when you found out what the news was. So things stayed in the news for longer. There wasn't 8,000 blogs and cable news channels and this and that. 3 channels and a paper. That's what you used to have. Therefore, news would travel much more slowly. There was a lot less outrage, and major stories would stay in the news for a lot longer. Well, those days are gone. Now we live in the age of the nuclear news cycle, and that means things burn bright and they burn hot, and then they're gone just like that. That's what the nuclear news cycle is. Something major happened. How much more major does it get? The impeachment of the president of the United States. Seems like a big deal, right? Just happened less than 24 hours ago. They just voted to impeach the president. This is a big deal. Everybody's going to... Ladies and gentlemen, nobody will be talking about this by the time you eat lunch on Saturday. That's just a fact. Because in the nuclear news cycle, things burn hot. There are 8 million articles, 20 million tweets. Everybody's got a blog. Every news channel has an opinion for about 24 hours, for about 48 hours. And then there'll be something else to be mad about, and everybody will move on, and everybody will forget. There are a lot of benefits to that. There are a lot of negatives to that. But what I just told you is 100% true. All that being said, you have to appreciate Nancy Pelosi as much as she is, failing, as we can all see. She is still one savvy character in Washington, D.C. Everybody sees what I'm about to show you, and they're mad at her, and this is ridiculous, and this is going to be the death of her. It's totally brilliant. Here's what Nancy Pelosi's saying about the articles of impeachment they just passed.
We have legislation approved by the Rules Committee that will enable us to decide how we will send over the articles of impeachment. We cannot name managers until we see what the process is on the Senate side, and I would hope that that will be soon, as we did with our legislation, our Resolution 660, to describe what the process would be. So far, we haven't seen anything that looks fair to us, so hopefully it will be fair, and when we see what that is, we'll send our managers.
Now, I understand we didn't have subtitles up there. We need to start getting those up, guys, for Nancy Pelosi when she speaks. But what she essentially said was, we're not going to send these articles of impeachment to the United States Senate until we can make sure the trial will be fair. That's the new Democrat line. And clearly she sent the word out. You're hearing that a lot from Democrats. Well, maybe we shouldn't send it. Maybe we won't send it at all, because they know what's going to happen in the United States Senate. Every Republican senator has already indicated, this is a bunch of crap. They're even going to lose Democrats in the United States Senate. Swing state Democrats, states that can go either way. Those senators are going to be like, I can't really vote for this, and they're not. So what's she doing? Well, I just won't send it to the Senate. Right now, the House had control of everything, complete control, and they used their complete control. Republicans couldn't do squat. The House controlled it all. The Democrat-controlled House did it all. And people were like, this is a disaster for Democrats, and it was. But why make it worse? She can take this and say, you know what, we're not sending it to the Senate at all, and you can act like that will be a big outrage. It wouldn't, though. It would be brief. It would be nuclear. It would burn real hot. She's a con. She's a fraud. She shouldn't do that. And then you'd forget. then you'd forget. It's brilliant. Never give the Republican-controlled Senate the opportunity to take control of this and hammer Democrats with it. It's brilliant. The lady knows what she's doing. She still has her lucid moments. Well, she may have her lucid moments, but she is stuck with a freshman class that does not have very many of them. And here's what I mean by that. Old school Democrats like Steny Hoyer, Nancy Pelosi, and others, they understand the importance of messaging. You put out one message, and that's the message you stick with. You never stray from it. This is the message, and this is the message, and you say the same message, and you say the same message, and that's the message you stick with as long as you're a Democrat. And they, for years, have been great about that. Well, they have this Republican freshman class of complete and utter morons who don't know anything about messaging. And so when Nancy Pelosi starts using the term somber, well, this is a somber day. We really don't want to impeach. And this is somber. I'm prayerfully going in. Look, I'm praying. Or it's very somber. And you saw a bunch of other senior Democrats say the same thing. This is somber. This is somber. Hey, nobody wants to do this. It's very somber. They kept using the word somber. And then Nancy Pelosi steps up there with the gavel to pass the articles of impeachment, and the morons start clapping.
Article 1 is adopted. The question.
As soon as she does it, you could tell by the look on her face. She even gathered them together before they went out there and said, okay, when we pass this thing, don't clap. Don't cheer. Everyone gets that, right? Don't clap, don't cheer. You're not going to clap or cheer, right? AOC, I'm looking at you. You're a moron. You're not going to clap or cheer, right? And then as soon as it passes, woo! Oh, sorry. Idiots. Well, Rashida Tlaib, an angry woman, she also looked very, very somber on her way to impeach the President of the United States.
Hey everyone, I am on my way to the United States House floor to impeach President Trump on behalf of my incredible district, 13 districts strong.
Yeah. Nancy Pelosi went home last night and hammered about 10 bottles of wine thinking about this absolute group of idiots that she has to try to herd into messaging every single day. Well, Donald Trump, in a really genius move, I must say, held a rally in Michigan last night at the same time they were voting on his impeachment. That's a pretty boss move. That's a way to show I really don't care. Plus, as I've told you several times, Donald Trump is going to camp out in key swing states. You're going to hear me say the words, Donald Trump had a rally in Michigan last night a lot between now and November of 2020. Well, Donald Trump stood up there in front of 20,000 people, and he didn't feel like he was being impeached.
I just said to the First Lady, you're so lucky I took you on this fantastic journey. It's so much fun. They want to impeach you. They want to do worse than that. By the way, it doesn't really feel like we're being impeached, do you? The country is doing better than ever before. We did nothing wrong. And we have tremendous support in the Republican Party like we've never had before. Nobody's ever had this kind of support.
It's brilliant. You know what he did? You probably missed it, but I didn't because I'm a genius. They want to impeach us. We're being impeached. We did this, we did that. Trump is genius at that in the right times because, look, the bottom line is he's right. And the bottom line is the main mistake the Democrat Media Alliance has made for the past 3 years is they have never been able to contain their hatred for Trump's voters. Yes, they hate Trump. We know that. That's fine. Normally, a party hates the other person's president. That's the norm. But you don't want to constantly crap on his voters. And Donald Trump played off that. He even said last night, look, it's not me. They're not going after me. They're going after you. And he's 100% right. He's 100% right. They can't ever contain that about themselves. That the truth is, they blame you. Democrats think they should have won that election. They think it should be President Hillary Clinton. And they don't just blame Donald Trump. They blame the stupid, ignorant flyover rubes in the Midwest for electing Donald Trump. They think you're stupid. They think that you don't share their values. and they're mad at you about it. Now, that's not that abnormal, but what is that abnormal is showing somebody that you think they're an idiot. It's been a huge mistake. Now, it hasn't all been bad news recently in Congress. There's been plenty of bad news, don't get me wrong. But look, the USMCA is a very, very big deal, something we haven't keyed on this show because I'm uneducated. Now, thankfully, we have David Brat coming up. He's going to let us know about it. But Trump talked about this at his rally in Hershey just a little bit ago.
And think of it this way also. The silver lining of impeachment and this witch hunt, that's the reason they approved USMCA, so that's okay with me, because they approved it and they're very happy to have it. But honestly, it's an incredible deal for our country. It took too long. It waited in Congress for too long a time. Incredible deal, and replacing the worst.
Coming up next, we are going to have former GOP congressman and current Dean of Business at Liberty University, David Brat, to discuss that. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I'm right. Well, this is a treat for me, and I'm sure it's a treat for him. Former GOP congressman and current Dean of Business at Liberty University, Dave Brat, joins me now. Congressman, first of all, before we get into all the impeachment noise and all this other garbage, I've heard so much about USMCA for the past 2 or 3 weeks. People I trust tell me it's a good thing, but I have to be honest, I've never actually asked what the heck it is. What is it?
Yeah, well, it's just an improvement on NAFTA. The president came in and was upset with NAFTA, said we lost a lot of jobs. I'm from Detroit. I think those upper states would agree with all that. And so it's an improvement upon NAFTA that still tries to keep free trade, but also has made deals with labor, et cetera, to make sure our folks are treated better on the labor side of the equation. And I think that's what makes President Trump attractive to a lot of folks across both political parties right now, especially up in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and some of those key states.
Congressman, I hear this a lot from people in the Midwest. I grew up in the Midwest about this hatred of NAFTA. What was wrong with NAFTA?
Well, it's a free trade area, but I don't think we've done a good job of ever enforcing the free trade part. And so, Ross Perot, way back when I was starting off in economics, talked about the giant sucking sound. And so you've got to set up kind of smart deals, right? We were draining jobs and companies, flooding across the border, cheaper labor, and so I don't think we did it in the smartest way. I'm for free trade. And President Trump said, when he was challenged on this kind of thing, he said, I'm for free trade too. Let's dump everything. Let's put all tariffs, all quotas, all protection, all labor protection. Let's put it all on the table and get truly free trade when he was tested. And so I think that's kind of clever. I mean, he's willing to go all the way if the rest of the world will. And they're not. Everyone's using, different mechanisms, China, et cetera, stealing intellectual property. And this kind of thing. And so that's all part of having, free and fair trade.
Congressman, I understand parties shift and parties move left, parties move right, and the things parties value changes over time. I mean, the GOP in 1900 was much different than the GOP now. What happened to the GOP when it became, I don't want to say too obsessed with free trade because I'm a free trade guy myself, but when did the GOP kind of shift and maybe slightly forget about the Midwest, forget about the Rust Belt a little bit, kind of became too much of a coastal elite party?
Yeah, I think it's just been gradually happening, but the answer, of course, is when they started paying attention to money and donors instead of the people. And both parties are enmeshed in that system right now. The Democrats, 100%, right? You walk into a Democrat office, they say yes to everything, whether they want it or not. And that's why the budget is blowing up. And then the Republicans got to compete with that. You got to compete with Santa Claus and free everything. So obviously you need folks on your team. And so it's just a bidding war right now, right? I mean, you can just see it in the scale and size of firms by sector. it's big everything right now. It's big banking, big airlines, big auto, big insurance, big healthcare, socialized healthcare, right? So it's everything big. The big guys can afford to buy off the small guys to protect themselves, to dump through low prices in the short run, to block competition. They can set up barriers to entry. You know, right now you got Google and Facebook and all these kind of things on top of it all. And so that's kind of a long answer to your question, but the answer, as soon as money takes over and our parties are paying more attention to the elites than to the voters, and Trump comes along and says, no, China's going to eat our lunch if we don't wake up. And he's absolutely correct. And everybody knows that, right? And so, I mean, they got 1 million folks in concentration camps. The Uyghurs, if anybody's paying attention, Hong Kong's hopefully going to implode on the freedom side. And they're the gateway for dollar trades through China. So that's huge. We have huge leverage right now. You wait another 10 years till China is equal to us in GDP per capita. And it could be too long, right? They're challenging us in the South China Sea right now. They might block off those seaways. And then we are not the brightest bulbs, right? We have CalPERS, it's one of the California Retirement System pension fund. They're investing in index funds, Chinese loaded index funds, and the Chinese component's growing. And the firms listed on those indexes are making weapons that are aimed at us. They're the weapons that are on the South China Sea islands that they've created. And so it's not too smart to invest and capitalize your enemy, I don't think. And I think the average American just scratches their head, and Trump knows this, and he's doing the best he can. And so, you know, tariffs in these trade areas is great. The explosive issue is if Trump ever goes after Wall Street and the exchanges and finance, right? That it would be a lot easier to solve some of those problems, but that's too big for any mortal to handle. You would be under full assault, totally.
Yeah, in general, it's a bad idea to fund your enemy and provide him with more weapons technology today when he's trying to defeat you. That's generally a bad strategy. I did want to ask you about conditions on the Hill. Now, it's a mountain to climb to ask the average American citizen to feel even an ounce of sympathy for anybody in Congress, whether it be a Republican or a Democrat. But I happen to be friends with quite a few of the guys on the Hill, and my phone has been blowing up for the past couple days about guys feeling a little bit disheartened, not just this horrible spending package that a lot of them felt forced to sign, but the impeachment. I know so many of these guys go there and they genuinely want to do some good. Yes, some of them turn out to be scumbags, but a lot of people really want to go do some good, and they get there and they feel deflated. Can you speak to that at all?
I agree with you. Even on the Democrat side, I'd go to the weight room in the morning and we'd all be working out in there. We'd personal friends with the Democrats. Juan Vargas was a Jesuit trained guy. We'd Harvard Law. We'd debate theology and politics and economics. And so you have personal friendships in a strange kind of way. And then when it comes to policy, there's huge differences. But the media is really the problem. I think that's what the person watching at home doesn't see, is how pervasive the media are in this clickbait war for revenues. Politico, The Hill, Roll Call, those are Hill trash papers that just annihilate and destroy people on a daily basis for kicks. And so every Republican, when they crack that paper in the morning, they're saying, am I a racist, a sexist, a fascist, a bigot, what am I today, right? I taught ethics for 20 years, right? And economist and liberal arts professor, track record for 20, and they can ruin your reputation in a day with totally false claims. And then you ask your Democrat friends in the weight room, hey, you guys, why aren't you coming to my rescue? Right? You know me. You know this is total garbage, and they don't show up. And so that is not true friendship. And that's the best example I can give that characterizes what's going on. You should defend your brothers and sisters, right? We're all children of God. And when these kind of charges are being leveled at everybody constantly, I can't believe the American people are falling for it. But they are. It's truly incredible time in our culture.
It is a fascinating time, especially with this absolute media barrage. I'm raising 2 young kids, and I have no earthly idea how I'm going to teach them how to wade through this media garbage world. But thank you so much for dropping some knowledge on us today. Dave Brat, former GOP congressman and current Dean of Business at Liberty University. Thank you, sir.
Hey, God bless you. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Merry Christmas. Well, we talked about impeachment. We talked about USMCA. Now it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, ladies and gentlemen. This spending bill is, I have no words. Actually, I take that back. I have a lot of words. I'm going to give them to you in a second. Hang on. A wise man once told me, show me what you actually care about. And I said, what? What do you mean, show me? And he said, well, here's what everybody does. Everybody will put on a great public face and they'll tell you what they care about. Now, you ask any man out there, what's he going to tell you? Well, what I care about, I care about my family. I care about my family a lot, and I care about saving money. I definitely want to save up for retirement, and I care about this. He said, don't pay attention to what they're telling you. Show me your bank statement. Show me your credit card statement. Show me, list it out, how you spend your time. He said, I talk to guys, and they'll insist, I love my wife, I love my kids. Really? You work 80 hours a week. As soon as you knock off, you go golf for 8 hours on Saturday. You see them for 20 minutes on Sunday and right back to it on Monday. Your time shows me what you care about. You care about saving for retirement? You care about your kids' college funds? You care about that? That's funny because you gambled away $6,000 last week. You spent about $400 on booze. Do you care? Show me how much you care. And the reason I bring all this up is while you and I were all watching the impeachment show, you know, the puppet show, Nancy Pelosi screaming, Donald Trump tweeting back, Chuck Schumer's up there, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, everybody, you know what, both sides of the aisle, Doug Collins, everybody, you're the devil and you're the devil, and this impeachment's a sham and you're a sham, and we're going to send the articles of impeachment, you're going to impeach, this is the end of the world, third impeachment. While they were supposedly at each other's throats, do you know what's currently happening? As we speak, what's currently happening right now? A 1,700 plus page, $1.37 trillion bipartisan omnibus spending bill making its way through Congress to the president's desk, where he's already indicated that he'll sign it. You see, while you and I were enjoying the show, you tuning into my show, listening to my radio show, watching other cable news, watching this, reading that, impeachment this, impeachment that, impeach. They're blowing all your money. Impeachment's nothing. Impeachment's been decided. House is going to pass it. If they actually send it to the Senate's going to shoot it down. Impeachment's nothing. What is something is that we're $23 trillion in debt. And while each and every Republican stands up in front of you all the time, TV commercials, press conferences, every one of them got their 15 minutes of fame during the impeachment trial. This is an outrage. This is what we care about. We won't stand for this. We won't stand for that. They're funding gun control. They're sending 4 times, you hear that? 4 times as much money to the Afghanistan security forces as they are for all that border wall money you hear that's in this omnibus spending bill. You see, they've spent the past 3 years, especially the past few months, investigating the corruption of federal employees, a whistleblower here, an FBI agent there, a CIA agent here, this federal employee and that federal employee and this bureaucrat, and we've got a problem at the state, and the state votes 95% Democrat. What are we going to do about federal employees? We got to rein in the federal employees. Let's stop the federal employees. That's all you've heard, right? From Donald Trump, the GOP, all the way down the line. We got to rein them in. We got to rein them in. And then at the end of the year, while you and I were sleeping, while we're arguing about impeachment, they pass an omnibus spending bill that extends paternity leave for federal employees to 3 freaking months. While you and I are arguing about things that they want us to care about, They knock off work after arguing about impeachment on the House floor all day long, and they go have a lovely steak dinner. Democrats and Republicans, all of them together. Look at it. Hey, give me another bottle of scotch. Hey, man, do you want to throw another $1 billion in this spending bill for that little pork project? Yeah, I actually could use that for my district. How about another $1 billion for this? Everything the Democrats ever wanted, packed in this bill. And they do this time and time and time and time again. Michael Malice, I believe his name is, said, yeah, it's Michael Malice, said, conservatism is progressivism driving the speed limit. Michael Malice is 100% right. If you want to know what the Democrat position is, well, it's the same position that the Republicans have. It's just the Republicans do it a lot slower and they do it a lot more palatable. If I seem upset, it's because I am upset. It's because I've spent the last few months fighting against impeachment, which is a total sham. It's like during the Brett Kavanaugh hearing when you fight tooth and nail, and then in the next breath they screw you over. You fight against impeachment, and you fight against impeachment, and this is unjust, and this isn't right. And you know what thanks you get? You get a slap in the face. And I'm sick to death of it. And I'm sick to death of every GOP congressman who gets up there, well, I felt obligated to vote for it. Well, I felt like I had to vote for it, but this is the last time. Oh, bull crap. You guys say that every single time. Republicans, when they're looking for a hill to die on, see nothing but thousands of miles of flat plains. Nothing is worth dying on. Nobody's fighting for you. Nobody's fighting for me. Nobody's fighting for the fact that our children will one day see 60, 70% European-style taxes in order to pay off the trillions and trillions of dollars in debt that this current government is piling up. We had all these Tea Party rallies and Barack Obama this and Barack Obama that back in the day. Republicans have taken over, and you know what's changed? Not a daggone thing. All right. We'll lighten the mood a little bit with Mike Slater. All that's coming up. Hang on. Well, this is a special treat for me. As most of you know, I really try to stay focused on myself because I only care about myself. But I do love it when our station brings on talent, and we brought on quite a new one now. Mike Slater is now ours. He belongs to the First, and he joins me now. I highly recommend tuning into his show. I do. Mike, I'm in a mood, man. Welcome to the network, but I am in a mood. I understand everyone's talking about impeachment this and impeachment that and McConnell and Pelosi and Trump and all that. Dude, $1.37 trillion. That's the spending bill that's going through, and it's loaded with more crap than I don't have enough show to list all the garbage that's in this thing. Why should I give a crap about impeachment anymore, Mike?
Man,
both parties are apparently the same.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. First of all, you're the only person who can get away with an intro of, as much as I love talking about me, here's someone else, and I love you for that. So I'm a conservative. I'm just conservative by my nature. I'm a conservative guy. And every once in a while, I flirt with this idea of joining the Republican tribe, right? Like going all in, being like, I'm a member of the Republican Party. And then they do something like this. And it's like, oh, this is awful. What the heck is wrong with you guys? Why are you there? What is the point of you exactly? If you are, as you said, the exact same, if not worse, than the Democrats. It's outrageous.
I have to tell you, you nailed it. You nailed it for me because this happens to me all the time, Mike. It happened to me during the Kavanaugh trial when the Democrats would make me so mad and I was screaming at them and screw everything and I'm a Republican now. And then some kid got assaulted for wearing a MAGA hat. And I like Trump, but I don't wear his pajamas. But I went out and bought a MAGA hat, just to say screw you. And then this impeachment thing, I'm mad about it. I think it's wasting the country's time. And I've been all in and all in and all in. And then I find out at the end of the impeachment thing, they were all in a back room together figuring out ways to screw me and screw my kids.
Yeah, and listen, I like Trump. Trump's done some great things, but this was one of the things that he was supposed to do, right? I mean, we talked about cutting regulations, and from what we know, like that's a thing that's happened, and I'm down with that. That's great. But the spending is the big one. Stop taking my money. This is not a hard one, Republicans. Like this should be priority number one, and it's been like the lowest priority. It's been the opposite of a priority. They've been making it worse. It makes no sense.
What if we're really screwed, Mike, and the problem is not necessarily the Republicans? What if the problem is the American people have no appetite for cutting spending? Because I'll tell you, man, I ran for Congress a decade ago, back during the Tea Party and all that, and everybody, to a man, cut spending, Obama's spending too much, cut spending. Well, you can't cut mine. Yeah, well, you can't cut what I want. You can cut what they want. What if that's just what it comes down to, man? The public says they want to cut spending, but they don't.
Listen, I'm hoping that the first, right, being a younger geared network, we can have this conversation in an honest way. Because, I'm on regular AM radio and it skews a little older, and you're going to get a ton of people who are on Social Security and on Medicare and Medi-Cal here in California who say the exact thing that you just said. But I'm hoping there's enough young people listening now who fully realize that they're not going to see any of their Social Security promises. Like, it ain't happening. And hopefully we can have a real conversation about how to get the heck out of this whole Ponzi scheme, because it's going to bankrupt us all. And we have to have some principled decisions made that this is wrong. We got to get out, even if it hurts.
It is, and no politician wants to touch it, man. And then now with the 10-foot pole, you even mentioned Medicare or Social Security. The next words out of your mouth better be how you're going to protect it, or you're screwed politically, which makes things difficult when there's 10,000 baby boomers retiring every single day. But I think you and I might be able to make a dent on it, mainly because we're so handsome. I mean, more so me than somewhat you. All right, Afghanistan. Are we ever leaving, Mike? Ever?
No. Okay. Let me jump in. Let me tell you something. I got to commend you for this. So I read the papers, the Afghanistan papers, and I thought, geez, this looks bad. This is not good. What can I say about it? Like, I was hesitant to go all in, and then I saw your tweet. You sent out a tweet that said this is the biggest story of probably of the decade, if not our entire generation. And no one's talking about it, and it's outrageous. And truly, that gave me that last kick in the butt courage to say, no, wait, you know what? I'm going all in on this. This is crazy. So I appreciate you doing that, because on Monday in particular on our show, we're going to break down, we're just going to go through for an hour. We're just going to break down all the outrageous things that have been released. So I want to thank you for giving me truly like that last bit of courage to speak the truth to this, because it is the great outrage of our time. And I love how the way you spun it. Because you said something in the tweet. You said our men and women and their families deserve better. And what's so wild is a lot of people, that's their argument for staying in the Iraq war. They're like, oh, here are these people who've been injured. We need to stay forever because they deserve better. And you flipped it around. You're like, no. That's all the reason to come home, because we don't want any more people dying. So I love your take on that. It's really important.
Well, it's just because it's true, man. I mean, we have to, what gets lost, in the same way when we talk about fiscal conservatism, or when we talk about conservatism, conservatives make this mistake all the time of only wanting to talk dollars and cents. Well, socialism doesn't work because it's too expensive. Well, that's true, but it's also evil. It's demonically evil to rip people's lives apart like that. And the same way, we do the same thing when it comes to the war. We want to talk about, $1 trillion and these numbers, and we've got 20,000 wounded, and all those things are just numbers. You put a face to that, you show somebody, this guy came back, he committed suicide because of what he saw. This family, they had two kids under 3. They'll never know their father. This dad, this dad and mom, they don't get to spend Christmas in 6 days with their son because he got blown up in Afghanistan. These stories are real, and they're still happening. And we're talking about some stupid freaking impeachment that everybody knows already the way it's going to go. And what makes this really egregious to me is we've lied to these guys. We've lied to these guys. We take our best people, our most patriotic people, and we throw them in some hellhole like Afghanistan, and we throw them over there lying to them. We have Donald Rumsfeld's quote from 2003 saying, we don't even know who the enemy is. Man, that's a disgrace. That's a national disgrace.
So, amen. And I've heard from people for years, stay the course. We got to stay the course. And now it is beyond a shadow of a doubt. What course? There is no course. There was never a course, as you just talked about with that Rumsfeld memo. And we have all these generals who said, we haven't the foggiest idea what we were doing. And that's still true. There's no course to stay. There was never an idea of what we were doing there. We should have avenged 9/11, and that's it. come home. But that's the problem. We're never going to leave now because we have this sunk cost fallacy that, well, 2,000 men have already died. We have to stay the course so that what? In their memory or whatever? No. In their memory, you get out of there and make sure that more people can have Christmases at home and they're not robbed from different families. It's outrageous. Let me throw one thing your way on this. Because a buddy of mine he's been to Afghanistan a couple times. And he's kind of wishy-washy on this stuff. And his rebuttal to it was, well, we've known about this for a long time. None of this was really new revelation. We've been debating it for a long time. And, if we don't stay, then, bad things will happen there. And there'll be another 9/11. What do you say to that?
Well, here's what I say to that. One, he's right, and he's right and he's right. Everybody who's been there, I mean, I still have so many of my brothers are there. They're still in there. They've rotated in and out. Everybody knew. Everybody knew this is crap. Anybody who's been in there or served read this and thought, oh yeah, that all makes sense. I knew this already.
Yeah.
So he's right about that. I liked the fact that it was one big expose in print that could be handed to Donald Trump and say, look what's happening. So I liked that part. But look, here's another thing he's right about, and this is the sad part. He's not right that we should stay for this reason. That part he's wrong about. But when we leave, the Taliban are still the most powerful military force in the country besides us. When we leave, they will come in, and anybody who's ever helped us will be tortured and maimed and raped and have horrible things done to them like medieval times. And our news crews, because they'll try to use it as a cudgel to beat on anyone who pulled us out, will be there filming the whole thing. And that's the problem, Mike, is I don't think the American people are ready for what will happen if we leave. It's just like we just talked about with spending. Everyone wants spending cut, just don't cut mine. Everyone wants to leave Afghanistan, just make sure it's real peaceful when we go. Well, that's not how that works. If you want to go, you're going to have to accept what happens when you go.
Yeah, that sucks. You're right. That sucks. But I'm not sending my kid over there. He's 3 years.
Yeah.
My son's Jack, 3 years old. I'm not sending him there so that what? The Taliban doesn't take power? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. We're talking to Mike Slater of The First now. We have to take a quick break to pay some bills, and we'll be right back. We're going to talk a little culture war stuff with Mike. Hang on. Joining me again, Mike Slater with The First. Mike, I understand that I am up against the clock because both of us tend to talk too much. Mainly that was me, not you. But I wanted to ask you really quickly about culture war stuff. This is one of these things that so many people on the right are afraid to fight. Nobody wants to be called a bigoted or, intolerant or anything like that. But the bottom line is it is important, and we are losing that culture war. How do we turn that around?
Yeah, I'm all in. I'm all in on this now. So I started off as a fiscal conservative, or just like a fiscal guy, right? My radio show was mostly entirely money-related things. And I wonder when it was. Maybe it was when I started having kids or get married. I don't remember. But I remember reading a long time ago this Breitbart quote, Andrew Breitbart quote, that politics is downhill of culture. And I first read that. It didn't really make sense. It didn't click with me until years later. And I was like, oh, yeah, culture is everything. Everything is downhill of culture. The culture in my home, the culture of our country, the culture of different regions of America. So I went on this long study of what is culture, what are cultural differences between different parts of America and us between different parts of the world. Because part of this is the idea of cultural relativity, that our culture isn't better than any other culture, except we're the worst culture of them all in America. But where did our culture come from? And what is it? And so all these cultural questions. My point is, it's the most important thing. Everything flows downhill from it. So we spent a lot of time talking about it, obviously.
Mike, real quick, 30 seconds before I let you go. Does the Slater family open all your gifts, some gifts, no gifts on Christmas Eve?
Wow, great question. Growing up, we always did pajamas Christmas Eve night. And I think we'll keep that tradition going. But my son's 3, and this is our first Christmas at home. So we have to start doing all these things anew. So not quite sure. What do you guys do?
Well, we do exactly the same thing. We do the pajamas beforehand. We do the pajamas Christmas Eve night, and then I make sure I point out all the nice gifts that they can't open until the next morning, just to grind in that torture for them like a good father would. Tune in to Mike Slater. His show is on the 1st, 12 p.m. Highly recommended. I watch it every single day. Mike, I appreciate you. I'm sure we're going to talk again soon.
Yeah, you're the man, brother. We'll talk soon.
Thank you again to Mike Slater for joining me. Tune into his show on the 1st every single Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. We will be back again to do this. You know we always come back. I'll see you then.